On October 23, 2013, California State Assembly member from District 22, Kevin Mullen, and San Mateo County Supervisor Warren Slocum hosted the first annual Connect13 conference at YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California. Strengthening communities through social media was the theme, bringing together social media experts and San Mateo County attendees from business, public, and government sectors to discuss the opportunities and challenges of using social media to communicate, collaborate, legislate, and participate. Peninsula Television is proud to bring you this conference, and all of the segments are available on YouTube and at www.pentv.tv/Connect13.
Okay, earlier today we heard from Jack Madans from Code for America, you'll remember. But some of us are so interested in Code for America, and especially the work they're doing for San Mateo County, that we thought we'd invite Jack back up to share a few more insights with us. So please give another welcome to Jack, Code for America.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have to follow the guy in the uniform who has a lot cooler things than I do. So basically, I just want to expand a little bit on what we talked about this morning a little bit, just basically around things like government as a platform and open data. But really, what I'm going to try and do in the next 10 minutes is tell you two stories about where we think citizen engagement is going. But we've talked a lot about the government space today, so I'm going to kind of try and come at it from a different perspective. Who here remembers a time when they had to go into their bank to get their money? I don't, but I've talked to my parents about it. It sounds like it's awful. That wasn't a dig. But really what I want to talk about is the transformation that we've seen over the past 20 years when it comes to things like getting our money out of the bank. The idea that I should even be expected to know how much, on a Friday, to go to a bank and know how much money I'm going to need for that entire weekend. In a world of mobile banking and PayPal and Square, that just seems ridiculous, frankly. And also what came with that is a whole new ways of doing business that lower the rigidities and lower the entry barriers to doing business in our communities and doing commerce. But we haven't seen the same transformation in the government space. We still have the lines in a lot of cases, and that is the status quo. This, for instance, is the computer that we got a bunch of property data when our fellows went to New Orleans. This is a green screen. And so really, I'm not ragging on the technology that government has as much as I want to tell you guys about how I think this event is basically putting you guys on the front lines of a much larger struggle that we see at Code for America. And again, it's not John's fault. It's not the technology that you guys bang your heads up against every day's fault. When you have a president whose signature initiative is suffering from technical difficulties, I think it's indicative of a larger problem that government has with getting the software it needs to get the job done, and the access to technology has to get the job done. So again, what we see is we see lines. We see old technology, and ultimately, how long is that going to last until the meeting rooms just empty out, right? And so what we do at Code for America is we want to help government get back on the curve. The society has attached itself to a curve of innovation that government has not. And so we see all these wonderful, amazing innovations, but how long is that sustainable? How long can government not be connected to that curve? And I think what we're talking about here today is that we're also not going to fall in the same footsteps as YouTube, as Google, as Square, as those mobile payment systems. Frankly, there's just not enough venture capital funding going into government in order to do that. So we're going to have to do it differently. And I think that so much of what we're talking about here with the way we engage communities and create citizenship is what is going to finally get us back on the curve. And that's why I talked about what we're doing with our fellowship program. These are some of our fellows, some of our younger fellows. And as I said, we recruit developers, designers, and data scientists to go work in city halls across the country for a year to help identify a problem and find the government officials in these cities who have a vision of government working differently. They just don't have the capacity or the resources or the time to make that a reality. So hopefully our fellows and our technical expertise can be enough of a lift in order to get that kind of stuff done. And so there's a number of different programs we have. We have grassroots efforts. We have an accelerator. We have a peer network for government officials that all of you guys should join, by the way. But what I want to spend the little amount of time I have here is 2 stories that come out of our fellowship. One is in Honolulu, and the other is right here in San Mateo and is just starting to happen. In Honolulu, we were brought in last year to rebuild the city's website. And so now I want you to all to think about the websites in your cities, and inevitably you're going to think about something that has about like 8 tabs across the top, and maybe like, how many like rows of categories for every department. And I'm sure you guys are asked to update your pages, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we want to do is we couldn't do that. Just like you guys, our fellows are asked to do more with less. They have a year, a little bit less, and all they have is themselves. And so what we did, though, was instead of trying to recreate the entire website, which has thousands of pages, which is something we couldn't do, we created a new idea of what a government website should look like. And that's Honolulu Answers. And basically, it takes some inspiration from Google in that there is one thing, usually, that people come to a government website wanting. They don't know that there are 30 different departments, or that you are not in charge of this but in charge of that. They come with quick questions and keywords. And so basically we created a way for them to input what that question is into their government website and get back simple, easy to read language about how you take this step-by-step process. So like, how do I renew my driver's license? But so this took a few months, and then so there's only a few months remaining. The fellows couldn't reasonably write all of these pages themselves, right? And so that's where this gets really interesting, is that we had a thing, I'm sure you guys have heard of things called hackathons. We had a write-a-thon, where we actually, on a weekend, got a bunch of community members to come together with city staff to co-write answers to the frequently asked questions, like, how do I renew my driver's license? And the result of that was, and what's so innovative about this is that we had the technology, but we needed the people and we needed the expertise. And that's where city staff and the community came in. Apparently, what do I do about wild pigs being a nuisance is a frequently asked question on the Honolulu website. I'm sure there's some really interesting things here in San Mateo. But what was really interesting about this was that when people got together, they started to have a really good time doing this. And when I talk about a different way of getting government back on the curve of technology, it means that we have to use our communities as a capacity. There was no way the fellows could rewrite all 1,000 pages to the website, right? And so what we did was we brought this community together and gave them the opportunity to write the answers to their own questions with the help of city staff. And here's what it gets at for me is the sense that cities do a lot of things. They renew driver's license, they pick up the trash, they fill potholes, but they also create citizens. Cities create citizens. And I know you guys are doing a ton, but that's one thing we have to add to the list. And in the opportunity, that you guys create opportunities for people to become citizens. And citizenship is all about ownership. And by just giving people this one opportunity to define what their government website is and the way the rest of their neighbors can navigate the minutia of the government bureaucracy, was a way for people to do that. And because we code in public, and this code is open source, now we have Oakland Answers. Out of a one-day event on the National Day of Civic Hacking in Oakland a few months ago, we now have this website. So this is just one exciting story. The next one is around what has happened in San Mateo over the last year. And so from now on, I'm going to be taking credit for work that I had nothing to do with. You guys can thank your 3 fellows, Sophia, Monsef, and Anselm, as well as Beverly Johnson at the San Mateo County HSA. And what they came to San Mateo County to was nothing really hard, except for solving hunger in San Mateo County. That was the mission they were given. And they called themselves Bites to Bites. And what they quickly realized is they kind of assessed the problem. And obviously San Mateo County is an incredibly prosperous region. but there are a lot of people who are living in the gap. It costs an average of $87,000 for a family of 3 to live here. If you're getting paid $20 an hour, there's only $41,000 a year. And solving that that hunger problem is that eligibility for CalFresh only goes up to $25,000. So there's a number of people who are not living at the low end, who are not living at the high end, they're living in this gap. And the fellows met one woman named Jackie. And Jackie is a single mom with 2 kids, and she's living in the gap. But she was able to take advantage of services from the Economical Hunger Program to both get her a car, as well as start her business. And the Economical Hunger Program is one of 590 plus programs in your county that provides these services. If she didn't know about the Economical Hunger Program, it might as well not have existed, which makes this an information problem. And also, it showcases the fact that as government, we rely not just on the people within our city halls to do this work and support our community. We rely on a vast network of social services and people who have dedicated their lives to helping others in their community. The social safety net comes from different fabric. And so she found about this via word of mouth. The second best way she can find out about it is a community information handbook that is apparently the most popular handout at the county fair. I see some head nods here. But the problem with this community handbook is that the second it is printed, it's out of date. It's no longer up to date. And it's also only in English and Spanish. I think that our community has diversified a good deal since then. And so the fellows saw this and said, I think this is a problem we can solve. Because you know what? You can't very easily turn bytes into bytes, but you can use bytes in order to help people find the services they need. And so they took it upon themselves to update what this website would look like. And they built a thing called SMC Connect. You guys should all visit it. It's really beautiful. And the same thing as Honolulu Answers, it makes this so simple. It says, what do you need? Do you need a food? Do you need a job? Do you need education? And then also has a number of categories down at the bottom that helps you also navigate what are the other services available in your city. And ironically enough, this should be really easy for you to remember because you are at Connect SMC, SMC Connect, right? You guys can't forget the website now. And what's really great about this is it's not only available in English, it's also available in Arabic and Spanish and basically 46 different languages thanks to Google Translate. And what it gives you is a series of listings. As well, it's also available it's also equipped for responsive design on a mobile browser. So this is really cool. But again, what I want to talk about and the most powerful part of this is the way that technology plus people makes this work. And basically, we ended up having this really beautiful website, a really great database to house the data, but not a really smart search algorithm to match people to services. In order to make that search smart, we got together, we had 2 events with HSA staff to help us tag all 1,700 entries with the categories of social services that they should be in. So again, the technology does part of it, but the second part of it is relying on the intuition and the knowledge of what you guys have. And we had 1,200 edits from these two events. And so the other cool thing that kind of references what we were talking about earlier today is the value of open data. Basically, this is an information problem. How do we make sure that this website doesn't become just as out of date as the handbook that's published every year? And the way we do that is by making sure that it's not any single source that has to aggregate all of that information. The Ohana API, which is basically a lot of technical mumbo jumbo for a database that is open, that is freely callable and machine readable by any developer that wants to build on top of it. And so that way, we were able to get information from government, from nonprofits, and community. Without it, this is locked up. That's the way that the Peninsula Library has been doing this for the past 20 years, is that the data is locked up and they have the single source for aggregating that data. And so now, we get community updates into the system, and all of a sudden, they immediately get pushed to SMC Connect. This SMC Connect is just one website built on top of this open database. So that means that 3 weeks ago, the fellows got an email, and it turned out that a developer in Washington, D.C. got really interested in the fact that we were aggregating this data in San Mateo County, and he, in one night, wrote a text message service to live on top of that database, which now means that this isn't just a website that people have to access from their laptops, or isn't just a website that people have to access on their smartphones. This is a database that people can now text to. And the argument that we're making for the social service organizations here is that this is the easiest way to get your data up to date in the most amount of places. And I hope Scott Schwartzberg is here, and he can tell you about how the website is also being tagged up in a way that it gets pulled into Google. So that means when people Google search these social services, it appears as one of those small boxes on the side. And so this is a really, really cool story, and it is happening nowhere else. This is the first place it's happening. This is Honolulu Answers about to happen here. It's a great opportunity for us to band together as a community to make it a success. And so we would love for you guys to help us spread the word. Again, technology plus people is the only way that this is going to be possible. And so what we'd love to do is for you guys, we're going to be launching this early next month. And we would love for you guys to spread this with your social networks, with the social services in your social networks to keep their information updated so that we can make sure that everyone living in the gap has access to all the services that are in the social safety net. Thank you. Questions? Yeah.
I have two. First is quick. How do you access a Code for America fellow? The second one is, I think this is tremendously exciting.
Yeah.
It's great that we're going to be able to engage our citizenship in this way. However, we haven't talked today about the large part of our community, or maybe it's a very small part, that isn't online. They don't have the socioeconomic background, they don't have the technological literacy, they don't have the interest, whether it's age-related, whether it's economic. We just haven't talked about that. How are we bringing this information to them?
Right. Perfect. I think we answer this in two ways. One is that is why I am so excited that some developer in DC took it upon himself to write an SMS application on top of this, because while there is still a very real digital divide in people accessing the web from a laptop or desktop or smartphone, we find that SMS is almost pervasive across all communities. And so that means that the data that organizations are putting into the Ohana app is now available via SMS. So they can simply text their location and what they need and get something back. The second thing I'll mention is that this needs to be used as an intermediary in the same way that it is organizations themselves that distribute those handbooks. We also will depend on these organizations to help print out, and we've actually created really great print-friendly templates for all of the data, so that if there is a social service that you want your community to know about, you can find it on SMC Connect, print it out, and actually hand it out as a handout. And so that means that two ways. One is that I think we're trying to overcome the digital divide by tapping SMS. The second is it really is a call to action around organizations to print and share the services by word of mouth, but also in paper form. Yeah.
How does this effort contrast with, say, how does this effort contrast with, say, 211, where, and I see the benefit of 211 particularly because one, it's phone accessible, which is widely available, and two, you can also initiate an intake process where you're here because you have trouble finding food, adequate food, but maybe you have other issues and you can have those addressed as well.
Awesome. And so actually, if you look on the front page of smcconnect.org, you'll also see that we actually are linking and saying if you want to talk to someone on the phone, that is available to you. The drawbacks of what we found with the 211 systems is that was already a need being filled by the Peninsula Library. They saw 211 as insufficient for providing the resources about the community. When Bev Johnson, the head of HSA, actually did one thing that we love government officials to do is secret shopping, so using your own services. and getting a sense for what the experience is like is really valuable. And what she did, she called them up and asked for a food poverty nonprofit in San Mateo County, and the closest one that they referenced her to was in Santa Clara County. Again, if the information is not there, the programs might as well not exist. So we see that as, and also it's a closed system. So this is a way that anyone can keep their information up to date from a multiple distributed, decentralized source. Time for one more question? Yeah.
Great application, and I noticed that it has different languages.
Yeah.
San Mateo County has a very, very large Hispanic community. How are the translations being done?
So we're actually using Google Translate. I'm hearing some grumbles. Scott, you have to deal with this one.
Well, you have a lot of Hispanics here right now, and that's a big... it doesn't quite.
So this is the other call to action. One is for each of you that have access to networks that you guys would like to share this out to, please contact me, either my email or on Twitter. And the second thing is that what you'll see in the upper right-hand form is feedback on the website itself. And that goes directly to the team. Okay, and what we can do is if what we'd love for you to be able to do is basically find the immediate screenshots and the pages that you find as being insufficiently translated, and we can troubleshoot from there. But that's a call to action for all of you who know this community better than I do, better than our fellows do, is to go use this site and find out if it's missing anything that you would want to be included in it. And you can hit the upper right-hand corner button and submit some feedback. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Excellent presentation, Jack. Thank you for staying with us throughout the day, doing both the morning and afternoon sessions, and a very timely topic as well. Jack mentioned the Obamacare website issues. We have huge issues in the state with our IT procurement process, well-documented issue where we lost hundreds of millions of dollars to the state controller's office on an IT project. EDD has payroll issues that are going to be millions and millions of dollars to correct. And the Secretary of State's office has a business filing backlog issue where they were actually using 3x5 index cards to process their business filing backlog. So we have huge issues at the state level as well that must be addressed, but more to come on all of that.